So this is George Lee's again, just to prove it's me this time. Hello. I'm at the massively influential place that was the home for the Washington family that became the first president in America. I'm going to take you up to the gates. That red roofed building was the residence of Washington. And I'm in the town of Washington, and it's a lovely little place, and the locals are very offended because this is now passed to the National Trust, and as becomes obvious, it then means that they have to pay a fee, and for generations they've been able to go in there, have their coffee in the coffee house, but now you have to pay 6 to 7 or 8 quid, all in the hands of the Rothschilds. And when I get to the gate, I will have explained to you how that family, that are the Washingtons, were shipped into America out of Tring in Hertfordshire. I forget the name of the first family member to make that massive step of moving across the Atlantic and eventually a couple of generations later becoming President Washington, who crossed the Delaware, which is now the Warren joke, and that is the Delaware and the state of Delaware being the first onshore tax haven in America. A lovely story, typical of the Rothschilds lineage. Okay. And it's the same story with Abraham Lincoln, yeah, and my mate Colquhoun, David Colquhoun. You look up David Colquhoun at Imperial College London, and you look up Vice President Colquhoun in America. They are exactly the same facial structure, and that is the professor in neuroscience that I lobbied through and I respected so much through all of that time when I was an activist and waking the whole country up. It's quite stunning that the moniker on the gatehouse here is the oak for the pagan cull, and that is the Washington policy. Yeah, once they're across the Delaware, every tribe that stands in their way, yeah, that's purple for constructive change, and it's a beautiful, beautiful sunlit day. So there we are, Washington Old Hall, yeah, potter's ashes on the wall, yeah, and the church is just beginning a service, and there it is. National Trust, Rothschild owned, founders of the Washington family from Tring. Yeah, the inbreeding with their family that means that the richest people in the world are Evelyn de Rothschild, yeah, who is the advisor to Queen Elizabeth II, who's on that bloodline I've told you about in the recent videos and on the front page of my website. And if you don't understand it already, the oak joke is that is in Frankfurt, where the Rothschilds still reside, still run the European Central Bank from. Yeah, that is the oak that was used to cull the pagans all across Europe and to replace them with false Christianity. And right next door you have modern age churches, and you can hear the bell tolling for all of those dead that policy has created. Okay? It's a beautiful building. I don't know what the building structure is like, but those red bricks come from the red roof tiles come from the Polish Walloonish coast, and that is right across the Baltic, and that is the trade pacts, that is the treaty of I forget what they call it, right up to the Polish place that is Lech Walensa's homeland, right on the coast. And I was talking to a girl at a stall retailing products, yeah, in healthcare yesterday in Newcastle, and she is from that Bugs Bunny Vistula River region that becomes the Warner Brothers massive joke about world ownership as they go out of northern Poland, yet where Kaiser Wilhelm in the bloodline had his shooting lodge in Krasnoselsk, where the Warners came from. Remember that they are the warmongering propagandists in that massive conflict, and I still cannot remember the trade pact that the town of Berwick is famous for, and that is the Breivik shootings and all of the covers for all of my story by the fascist people that still run the world this way. Okay, it is the trade pact is, so it goes right up to Polish Lubavitchers. Lubik is right up on that Baltic coast, but I still cannot remember the name of the treaty. Anyway, the locals who now get locked out and have to pay 6 or 7 quid to the Rothschilds owned National Trust to get in now. Yeah, this is the revolutionary red shield for Rothschild. Yeah, that is just been imposed on them this year. Totally free to all of the locals, all of the passers-by, and all of those who are interested in the history. Discover the families and stories that have inhabited this hall for almost 800 years, thanks to the local schoolmaster Fred Hill and the Preservation Committee who saved the hall from demolition in the 1930s. So it was a state of ill repair, the people that used to get in for nothing told me, and they have done a remarkable transition, but it was still free right up to last year. Okay, National Trust. Yeah, it's an international fraud that can never be forgiven. Okay? And the children have to pay too. Yeah, we're in Percy country, and we're in the Pi Penshaw biblical fraud team, and that is the Hearts of Oak, that is the commemoration of all of the culls of the pagans that started, yeah, with St. Boniface's pine tree coming out from under the place where they felled Thor's Oak just outside Frankfurt. Total theft of the global economy, every one of the global banks. Yeah, and these videos are more effective, I think, because you can see how beautiful the whole world is, but how only the people that are prepared to pay can enjoy it now. And that is how the whole of democracy is run. None of it is run from the central banks. All of them are privately owned since the Five Arrows took over after the Battle of Waterloo. The banks in Vienna, the banks in Naples, the banks in Paris, and the banks in London. Yeah, Five Arrows all across Europe. Yeah, totally now stealing every central bank on the globe. The last 2 or 3 to go were Libya, Lebanon, and Iraq. And I've just been looking at the construction of Donald's systems in America, and the new French president is based on a company which is called, or a set of administrative tools that are known as the French-American, I can't remember what the collective noun was, but they are a massive presence on the Little Sis website, and I'll be making videos on them in the near future. All of the people that were the ambassadors for Iraq are now on the take. They are massive profiteers, and they run all of the huge companies like Faith Hill and Tim McGraw. So Hill McGraw is now profiteering from all of what they did to Iraq and the Holy Lands in that last great conflict. and the sun's gone in now temporarily because of that bad news. So let's walk up the hill and risk risk meeting the Christians in the face, and we'll be able to have a look down onto the garden from the top. And guess what the pub just along the road is called? The biggest joke in religious history. The Scottish flag, the pub in my hometown that I was talking about the night that they jailed me. The name of the next pub up the road is the Cross Keys, and the next car is a Picanto with the pie letters at the front of the name. Okay? Purple for constructive change. Hannah and Nathan Rothschild. So do you get? The Cross Keys Hotel is the joke about the icon for the Vatican, when the Vatican, the biggest church in the world, was the Cluny Abbey in Clermont-Ferrand in the south of France, the start point for the killings in World War I. Where I used to work right next door to Basel, when I was working in the pharmaceutical industries, and that is next to the town of Mulhouse. And it is absolutely cynical. They still get away with it, and everything that I describe now. So the new president in France was a Rothschild banker, and it was him that led me into that American-French alliance that is the massive set of crimes that mean that every president like Donald and he, the last two to be elected, are replacing massive mobsters like the Hollands. It's way over 2 years since I made the video on the Hollands. Their crimes as socialists are massive and have never been challenged by anybody in law enforcement globally. Okay, let's go up the tree and have a look at the panorama. And for some reason the neighbouring cheap pub, oh, isn't it lovely? So we're at the back door like the staff would be. And look at the beautiful birch trees. The garden we will not be able to see it, I'm afraid, but it is absolutely lovely. Free right up to last year. And we've got a Christmas tree with decorations on it here for some reason. Okay, I will not I can't remember, when you step on a grave, I think it's not the thing to do. So they've still got stained glass windows in this church. Don't know what denomination it is. And it's well kept. Well kept. Okay. And there she be. Historic place. Yet they've also got mansions in the North Yorkshire region parallel to Scarborough. I've told you about that region before. That is the place where Barnard Castle is, and that is where they launched the Balliol treason. That means that the first king of Scotland, after Robert I, the Bruce, was John Balliol, and that is Longshanks's pick as a piss take, pie piss take, that he is dictating in that elite family bloodline, the families that are allowed to reign in that country. And let me tell you the story about the Longshanks's son's wife in the Braveheart movie is Queen Isabella of France. She actually had her husband killed or was murdered, and that was the poofy guy yeah, that his friend got chucked out the window by Longshanks in that movie. Then they started to fight about the Salic laws in France and about the French women's rights to become queens and monarchs in their own right. That has never happened through all of world history, and the reason it has not happened is they got two characters in France, yeah, called Gaultier, yeah, that is John Paul Gaultier, the poof that sells perfumes and fashionable clothes and appears on chat shows and will be a Forbes billionaire like every one of those people that celebrate the poofy son of Longshanks, and that is Piers Morgan. He's one of the richest entertainers in our world. Total twats. Yeah, and that is Pizzo lingo, because the twat is the female vagina too. Yeah. Converted in Italian, Pizzo means vagina. Yeah, it's the American pie joke, it's the pie hairstyle for all of the emperor's wives and the empresses, and that is the American pie joke that Don McLean shared with the whole world. It's Taylor Swift's Shake It Off joke, and on it goes. Watch Britney in the Amy video that she made, and you'll see all of the knickers all over the floor, and when she walks out in her posh dress with no knickers on underneath, she's carrying the pie and she's walking like a diplomat, and that is the sorority and fraternity jokes, the alpha, kappa, beta, gamma jokes that were all of my treasonous colleagues in New Zealand even, yeah, American lineages in New Zealand running the same scams down there. Okay, there is a sundial, but there's no doobrida on the top of it, and the sun is glaring down onto it, except when you make those garish statements about the pagan cull and all of the Indian tribes being absolutely massacred by this team. Okay, so can you see the links to Rothschild? And it's the same for Stalin, it's the same for Hitler, it's the same for all of the world leaders that are projected into those great combats and revolutions. They have Rothschild blood in them, and all of that is related to the Alois joke that is the Louis of the Bourbons of Versailles, the Louis rather, and that is, as I've told you now, back to Clovis, and the cloven hoof joke is the catcher's mitt, yeah, for all of those people, yeah, and that is the cloven hoof for the devil, and the reason that they have the sickle and Thor's hammer on the Austrian flag is that that is the icon for Thor's hammer, and Thor has been completely stripped of his power by the launch of Jesus. However, all of the time the gods are telling me that the only way we can go is up, and those flowers are purple for constructive change. Okay, I'm going to stop in a few seconds and go and talk to the locals in the pubs, because they're ever so genial in Geordie land. Yeah, and they understand what I'm trying to do, and they talk to me openly. Some of them are reluctant to reveal their surnames. The legacy goes on, because these are the most powerful families in world history. Okay, there's a tiny little lodge and the gate that I started making the movie at. Yeah, and I think I'll stop here rather than take you out into the motorised world. They've got a lovely little herbal garden down there, and you can see the ornamental hedges that we have in Pinnacle Hill Park, where I'm not allowed to live anymore because my wife from Chippendalton wants to stay with the treason. Yeah, yeah, and every comment like that gets the gods riled. Yeah, it's a total scam through all of world history, and we're not allowed to smack our kids now, but we are allowed to charge them to see the biggest jokes in world history from what is a legacy of this region, and what they should be entitled to see and understand for nothing. Okay? I'll never stop talking about it. All of the motives are obvious to all of you now, and the world is still beautiful, and we can make it civilization in less than 6 months. All of you just need to confirm what is happening is the same set of families, and all of a sudden we will get democracy, and we may get even law enforcement. Yeah, that's the replacement of the police leaders by responsible police forces that are not part of a familial mafia operation. I'm going to stop there. And the red roofs are a commemoration of the Baltic Trade Pact that was, oh my god, a third magpie. It is the Hanseatic League. Isn't that amazing? Okay, so that is the Hanseatic League that takes you from Bremerhaven, where the landlocked Austrian navy sails from. Yeah, that is the Sound of Music joke. And now you understand that story I told you about the French kings and the Gaultier person and the man called the second family that was guilty of tempting the queens in France into relationships when they were already married to kings in France. The second one was the Donny people from the French aristocracy, and that is the Donny that gets on the clock face, yeah, in the John Buchan, the Tweedsmuir lineage that was Governor General in Canada, wrote that whole story knowing that Gaultier and Donny are just part of the massive European treason that mean the monarchs get to scam even their loyal or disloyal women, yeah, and they get to lop their heads off with impunity. Yeah, there is no law enforcement, and that is the launch of the armed police carrying the Piso pistol, and their name as the Polis is a derivatization of what the Bible authors have created. Yeah, the Pi Pilgrim Fathers for Christianity, that creates the new religion and totally writes God out of the story. Yeah, God is my friend, yeah, and they know that it's going to change now. Okay, and look at the lovely purple flower beds, yeah, and the potter's ashes on top. Yeah, the jokes all through my lifetime, yeah, and that is Dr. Potter, and they were married into Rothschild, and Dr. Potter was my first boss in pharmaceuticals, and he worked on the nerve gases that were killing all of the war dead in World War I, which is those families' greatest triumph. Okay, we will not despoil the graveyard or talk about any of the family groups that are in here. I'm going to stop now and show you where the real power base is for the world and the universe. Okay, bye bye. Thank you to the locals. Oh, thankfully there is the fourth magpie. Showed up right in time with the glint in your eye. Bye bye.